We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us break. What time is that coming over you? You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back into all out.
Good evening, welcome to nufc Matters. Geordies here, Geordies there, and an emotional one for me. That's putting that together. A lot of that time and effort put in by Media Arts. Thank you for paying respect to the lads who we've lost over the last few years, and 3 we've lost this year. Of course, Stevie Wilkinson, big loss to this show in particular, and of course Mr. Ranson. I know his family's watching in, and they'll be proud to be alongside all the other wonderful foreign imports we've had, whether it been Geordies here, Geordies there. Every single player on that montage was from a different country, so I thought it was a nice little gesture. Go on, George.
You got it right, Steve. I've got to say, I mean, I'm probably the only one in here, and probably the only one who's watching, who's seen most of those people. I mean, I've seen you slip George Robledo in.
Just for you, George.
Yeah, that was absolutely great. Absolutely great. So thank you for that.
I stuck Frank Pingle in for me, mate. And as we're talking about those we've lost, we did lose somebody quite a while back, but luckily not to the other side. We lost him to another program, and he's back.
Hello.
Welcome, Martin. Good to see you back on the platform.
I know. I'm good, yeah. I know. I'm just looking at Mitch's face there. I'm not sure what has him more shocked, the floods or seeing me on this. But yeah, listen, great to be back. Yeah, delighted to be back on. Missed everybody. Obviously, Steve and me had good chat about a week and a half ago. Obviously finished up unloaded with Daz and the boys. Kind of. As most, I think, know, certainly Mitch and Steve do, with my mother passing last year, took a bit of time out, bit of recovery and everything else. But I thought it was the right time to come back. So I had a good chat with Steve and said, look, if you had anything going and the boys were okay with it, I wouldn't mind coming back and doing an odd show here and there. And he said, absolutely, kid, no problem. I'm sure the boys would love to see you. So I've hold me pipe for the last week and I haven't said a word or tweeted it out or done anything, which has been hard. Because I've nearly responded to something Mitch put up the other day and said, I'll see you the other night, and had to take it back. So, yeah, good to be back. So, listen, thanks very much for having me back, Steve. Appreciate it.
Great to see you, mate. Great to see you. As I say, we always value your input, and good to have you back on. And big shout out as well to Rich. I know he's watching in, and good to have Rich. And here is Stu as well. So, full compliment. And Martin is back with us, Stu.
What's that Irish prick doing on here?
I was going to say the same thing when I just seen you, but there you go. All right, buddy, lad.
How you doing, mate? You right?
I'm all right, kid. Not a bother, mate. All good.
Good to see you.
Plenty to talk about, lads. Plenty to talk about. And I want to talk about Lewis Miley, something a bit different before we look ahead to tomorrow night's game. Lewis Miley, his season's over, Magnus, and you're first in the firing line today. Lewis Miley's season is over. What kind of season has that been for the young lad? An unexpected one, I would imagine. He thrust into it. Elliot Anderson was supposed to be the player who was going to get the glory this year, and from being promoted. But Lewis Miley's had to learn on the job. Over 25, 26 appearances. I think it was 28 at the final count, and a goal, his first Premier League goal, and quite a few assists if you count penalties, I guess. But what a season he's had, Magnus. And if that, he's kicked his last ball this season, but what a player.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really impressed with his performances. He's a young Geordie lad that has absolutely grabbed the opportunity that he got by the scruff of the neck. As you say, we were all expecting Anderson to be the next one in line, and it all looked that way in the preseason. But at the same time, we could still see signs of his qualities in the American Summer League, and. He's played very important games, and he's never looked out of place. And you're talking about those assists and the fact that other players are being spoken so much more about, like in Man United, this Manu or whatever his name was. He hasn't shown half as much as Miley has, and. Just the way he handles himself, I mean, I've been seeing he may be needing a little bit of, if I'm saying anything to criticize him, maybe sprinting isn't his sort of strength as of yet, but he's only young, and he's played against, what an experience it must have been. He played in the starting lineup, wasn't it, against PSG? As far as I remember, he played against PSG and Dortmund. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what an amazing young lad he is, and he has proven and gone straight to the hearts of the fans. And for me, is a great fan favorite that we must cherish and support in the next few years.
George, you were a youngster once playing for Newcastle United. What will it have meant to him to have pulled on that black and white shirt so many times this season? I
think I've said on here before, not just to him, Steve, to the whole young squad, the under-18s and even younger who might have come in contact with Lewis on his way up and when he's in the training ground, and every time he goes back, they'll all be saying, "Well, hey, that could be me," and that's exactly the impact we want from the youngsters in the club, and that's what it'll give them. And look, I remember being in the youth squad when George Dalton made his debut in the first team, and the impact that it had on all of us. Everybody was hoping, well, I might be next. We even had some of them that were practicing their bloody autograph on the quiet. They bought autograph books and they were practicing autographs in a blank autograph book just in case they were next. No, it's fantastic for everybody at the club. Fantastic for youngsters who were thinking about Newcastle United and thinking of coming to Newcastle United. And I couldn't be happier for the lad and for his family and for the club. One worry. 17. How many games? I think he might have played a couple of games too many when we needed him. And that worries me, that if we'd been stronger on the bench, he might have been coming off earlier and not finishing 90 minutes all the time. But what a shift he's put in for a 17-year-old. And in terms of his play, we've got an outstanding player. If Newcastle United get their binoculars on and find a sprinting coach to get him an extra yard of pace, he'll become an international phenomenon, not just a local phenomenon, an England phenomenon. With an extra yard of pace, he becomes that much better, that much more difficult to get hold of. So everything is open to Lewis Miley for the future, in my opinion. There were a couple of games when we're in the doldrums. He carried the midfield. He was the one that just kept going, kept plugging away. And I just thought that for a 17-year-old was amazing. So, yeah, it couldn't be better. And it's not just what it does for him, though. For me, it's having the memories of seeing people like George Dalton and one or two where they're sneaking into the first team while I was amongst the youths that were training with the club. It gives everybody such a boost. And as I say, there were one or two of the crackers bought themselves autograph books to practice their autographs in case they got asked. So, no, it just gives everybody, coach and staff, the management, everybody around the club, when the success story like that, everybody gets a piece of it. And that's magic for the club.
Kev, I just heard George say, he probably played a couple, too many games. I mean, I listened to Eddie Howe's press conference a couple of hours ago, and he did mention that, that it's a decision that they've made to reduce the amount of games he's played, by not, I think he could probably play a couple of games towards the end of the season. They've decided to call his season short. So they're looking after the player, Kev.
And that's what ultimately the most important thing is, looking after the player, and they've actually made a sensible decision for a change. Rather than putting them into the firing line constantly, and unfortunately they've had to do that. But when he's played for 17, 18 games, what it is, he's carried himself with a lot of grace, a lot of elegance when he's played within the black and white. Like George said, carried a midfield as a 17-year-old man, a boy, and you think he's 25 plus, and and that's not his job. His role and responsibility was to be a backup to fill a role, if we did have an injury. But then we had multiple injuries, and he's just been thrust into it. And he's handled himself very well and represented the club and his family and everything with the utmost, elegance and grace. But again, for me, I always look after the player. I always want the player to be successful, and then ultimately the team becomes successful. So I think the club have again made the best decision for him. Similarly with Joe Willock, they made the right decision. We had that discussion last week and see what they're going to do there. So they've made, in my opinion, the right decision on, you only have one back. So better keep it right and structurally support it, within the spine and things like that, and get that rested and all of the above for him to just go again next season. And which again, he probably fully deserves a time away from the football pitch, to be perfectly honest, to reset, to get his life in order a little bit and go again.
Al-Walid, Lewis Miley, have you been impressed with him this season?
First of all, just Steve, I want to thank you for the new theme. I really like it with all the player and the fans who passed away. It was really touching, much appreciated. And also welcome back, Martin. We miss you so much. For Miley, we also surprised about his fitting in with a much more expert player around him, and it was sensitive time for us after Tonali suspension and Joe Linton injury, and he stepped in and he did quite performance. It's just I'm worried that we don't like to. I'm worried about two things: putting too much pressure on a player, which causing sometimes injuries like what he have, and we don't want this, because sometimes the injury, we see it always for players, it's a chain. So if you didn't treat, if you have your first major injury, and if you treat it very well, if you are not doing the right physiotherapy and exercise, it will be repetitively happen, and we don't want to lose a young talent. Second thing, we don't want also to put much admire of how he is and a lot of prizes for him, because we still want him to multiply by 10 times his performance for the future.
Okay, Stu, your thoughts on Miley in the season that he's had?
Well, he's had a breakthrough season, but more out of chance than I think he's played more than they would have liked. And I think Eddie Howe's made it quite clear in many press conferences that he wants to wrap him in cotton wool. He wants to bring him through at the right pace. He's still growing mentally, physically. And although he's performed like a man, we have to remember that he's still a boy. And there's very, very few players that can sustain top-level performances. Rooney being one of them, Shearer being one of them. But these are once-in-a-generation talents that can perform at that age consistently. So he's a precarious talent, and he has no limit to what he can achieve. But I think the fact that he's played the extra games is maybe burdened him too much. You know, there's been too much put on him. So I think they've done the right thing, taking him out the firing line, and next season just blend him in gradually. And if he's good enough, he'll prove himself. And that's the thing. What we don't want is weigh him down with expectation. You know, you don't want him to come on and think, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, because that's when he's not playing his natural game. So hopefully there'll be Europa League games you can play in against lesser opposition. Hopefully there'll be FA Cup games. We might draw Sunderland again, so you can play against lesser opposition there as well. You know, it's blending him in at the right pace, and potentially he's got so much talent, but he still has so much to learn. And I think it's been a shame for him that he got dragged through, not even week after week. It was 3 days after 4 days after 3 days. And of course, he was wanting to play. He's wanting to play for the club, and anyone who plays football wants to play football all the time. But the learning curve is very high for him, and maybe he was given too much to climb. Whereas next season, I would hope he's still part of the squad, and we'll add to it with quality. And then he'll be able to sit back, learn from, especially in training, learn from the Tonales, learn from the Brunos, learn from the Joe Littons. And as he fills out, he could be a unit himself, because he's tall enough anyway, isn't he? You know, so he's at a place where he has better players to learn from. And it's not often we can say that in Newcastle's history, when we've got such a talent coming through, where they can look and think, do you know what, I can learn from him. They were probably already better than the players ahead of them, if that makes sense. So I 100% trust Eddie Howe to do what's best for Lewis Miley, to do what's best for Newcastle United. And if we see less of them next season, long term, that should benefit us. And if we see more of him next season, that means he's ready, and we can only benefit from it. So thank him for what he's done this season, because he's went above and beyond and played games he shouldn't have played, but there was no one else to play. And I don't mean that derogatory, meaning like he was the last choice. But there was no other midfielders, and he's took the mantle, and he took it in his stride. So hopefully he will learn from it, and it's given him a taste, and it'll make him hungrier, just like what it's done with Elliot Anderson, because he's come back looking like a proper Premier League midfielder. When again we were talking about potential, could he do it? Could he make that breakthrough that we all want him to, because he's a local lad? He's proven it now, and I think over the next 6 games, Elliot Anderson is going to give the manager a massive headache going into the next season. Like, I should be starting in this team. And when we're talking about the quality midfielders we've already got, when everyone's fit and not suspended, that's a great position for us to be in. And that's where rotation makes this, takes place. And that's where we as a club will benefit, when we've got strength like that coming off the bench. So hopefully Lewis Miley can look at Elliot Anderson and think, right, in the face of adversity, yes, I was at the top and I've dropped back to the bottom of the pecking order, but I have enough belief in his own talent. And I'm sure if you watched the Anthony Gordon podcast today, believing in yourself is half the battle. You know, your talent will get you so far, then you've got to have the confidence to deliver it, and he's in the right place. So I'm sure Miley's got a huge future, and he's going to be very beneficial to Newcastle United long term.
Quick one on what we've been talking about this on other shows. Nothing about Maldini being interviewed according to Craig Hope. But you still feel that, you know, he has been and Craig's missed a trick there?
There's times that Craig will miss tricks. There's times that Craig spoke to me and Mitch and asked for information, and we've given it. But the club will feed what they want to feed to who they want to feed it to sometimes put smoke screens in the way. Like, who knew we were going to sign Isaac? Who knew we were going to sign Bruno, etc., etc.? Now, all I'll say, and I'm hoping, well, I'm not hoping, I would expect Mitch to verify this. We both know for a fact that Maldini's been interviewed twice. Now, that doesn't mean he's got the job. He might not have been good enough for his interview, or other people might have been better. You know, and that's good for us. If people like Maldini are getting knocked back, that means they found someone better. If someone like Maldini gets picked, then he's the best of the lot. But irrespective of Craig Hope, who I've got a lot of time for and a lot of respect for, if he believes that he's not in the three-man shortlist, who am I to dispute? You know, that's his career, that's his job. But sometimes a club will throw a curveball in and feed certain journalists. We've seen it before in the past, and some of them don't go about it the right way. I'm not a journalist. So what I do is share what I can share. There's a lot of things that we get told that we don't share, but we do internally, but not on a podcast like this. But 100%, Maldini's been interviewed a minimum of 2 times. Both times at St. James's. Both times at St. James's. So that he's been to the ground. Now, that could be to throw them off, so throw people off the scent of other people who have been interviewed elsewhere. I said on the professionals on Sunday that Paul Mitchell had also been interviewed twice, but I believe that happened in London. You know, it's not just a regional game anymore. It's not a national game anymore. It's an international game anymore. And in this part of the world, you know, if we I mean, how I say this, sometimes the mountain will go to Mohammed rather than Mohammed go to the mountain. You know, so will Maldini get the job? That's not my decision. Has he been interviewed for the job? 100% yes. So whoever they choose will be who they believe is the best person to take Newcastle United forward in that role, and we can only benefit from that.
Good. Thanks for clearing that up. Welcome back, Martin. Lewis Miley, you kind of feel to have been impressed by the lad. Season's over for him, but what a season.
Yeah, I think he's been amazing. I think Stu and Magnus made some good points. I think if Eddie had a choice, I don't think he would have thrust him in the way that he's had to go in. You know, Magnus said he's kind of had to carry the midfield at times, and he's had that burst of playing against PSG, you know, and coming on. I think for me, you know, the season he's having, I think there's a couple of things for me is certain history. When I look back, whenever we've had breakout stars, we've always ended up selling them as a club. So I think we've now got owners that won't sell our stars coming through. So that's the biggest important thing for me is, listen, this kid's 17, he can take another 2-3 seasons, still only going to be 21, and will have the prime of his football and time with us. He'll you know, rack up, he'll put the muscle on. We've seen that a bit, to be fair, this season with Murphy, has put on a bit of weight and put a bit of muscle on and stuff. So I think he's, you know, as Stu said, he's with the right man with Eddie Howe. We're not going to sell him, but I think he just needs to take his time, keep the head. I think the good thing for me with him is his attitude is right. And I think, you know, Stu made a point about, you know, talent will only get you so far. I think what he's got in the rest of that makeup is the right attitude. He's level-headed. He comes from a good family. So I think that'll all stand him in good stead. But he's got to take his time, like any player that comes through. I don't get the whole kind of the love fest with Manu from United. I think, look, it's a lot of it is media hype and everything else. Sorry, Mitch, if I stole your point there. I think if Sky and social media wasn't around, you wouldn't see Manu anywhere near an England shirt. And I don't think he really should have been. That's my opinion. But I think Miley's a much better player and will probably be around for a lot longer. I said that to one of the lads the other night. You know, 2-3 seasons, Manu might even be there, but I think Miley will be. So I think that's the difference. I think next season the kid's just got to keep putting in the hard work. He's got to look, as Stu said, look at those people around him in training, and you know, hopefully the club give him somebody that's there, be it a Bruno or a Tonali, that takes him under the wing and starts to spend a bit of time and mentor him and teach him those things. Because the speed and the pace and the training will all come. I think the right decision, probably not to let him play again with the back. I think it's the right thing to do. But I think he can be proud of himself, and I think he's certainly done the club proud. And I think you've seen that when he scored his goal, the emotion that was in it for him. And I'm sure his family will keep him on the right track, as will Eddie. So I think the other thing if you look at Anderson as well as Miley, I would say probably in a season or 2 seasons time, they're probably 2 players who are going to save us probably about 120 million quid.
Yeah.
So I think when you look at it that way, if we can get them right, and keep them, and they take their chances, then I think we've got 2 really, really top talented players on our hands for the next few years. So best of luck to the kid.
Good point. He's got brothers as well. Get the brothers through. Hopefully they're all as good as each other. We could be onto a dynasty here of Mileys for the next.
Reckon the young's the best of the lot.
For the next 10 or 15 years.
So I believe, Stu. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, Mitch. Go on. Well, let your son speak first, George.
Oh, sorry, Neil. No, I thought that.
He's
let Neil go.
He's like on the naughty step, waiting to speak.
Well, it's just the point Stu made about Miley's physique. If Miley can bulk up the waist, and Anderson did in the 18 months between starting playing and this last season, when he came on the other day, it was difficult to say it was the same lad. Now, if Miley can do that and add a yard of pace, wow. We've got a world-class player on our hands. It's incredible.
It is. Mitch, what's your views on Miley's season?
He needs to be managed, and the roadmap for management includes looking at what Anderson has done that's helped them, and what Anderson has done that hasn't helped them in terms of the back end.
Yes.
And so monitoring and looking at using that almost as a roadmap for Miley to have them at that kind of gap with one coming through after the other is quite handy. Martin's absolutely right about the point about Man U. I mean, he was hyped into the England squad, and if you look at them, he's a year older than Miley. Their stats this season are almost identical. I think he's played 1 game more and scored 2 goals when Miley scored 1. And Miley has played in the Champions League, not some, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I don't think outside of Newcastle United in the North East, Lewis Miley does not get enough credit for what he's done at his age. And that's fair enough for me. We'll keep him in-house. We'll let him develop properly and steadily. Giving him the time off to the end of the season makes perfect sense. Absolute perfect sense, because we've used him way more than we really probably wanted to. And let's let him grow and develop. And but I think having Anderson as an interesting blueprint ahead of him is something we should be looking at to say, right, where did we go wrong? Where did we go right? How can we help Lewis avoid some of these pitfalls? And again, you're quite right. There's 2 players that could save us an absolute fortune going forward. I'd also like to know why Mr. Chilvers is sat up there in something that looks suspiciously like a Middlesbrough shirt.
I said that was a top. He's tagged it.
Oh, and see, buggers up after that comment. No, this is an old coaching shirt, and they copied the badge. It's called Smyrna Soccer Club, and they've got 3 stars above it for national championship. So Borough have never won now. So
Get a bit smoggy over there, isn't it?
They got the dig in. Halfway through the show, we've got a few Ask George questions. We've got a few Ask George questions coming up after the ad break. A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk, telephone 01768 210 102, or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to United Group Travel. There are no strangers in our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com, email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com, telephone 01670 632 460, or mobile 0791 666 4174. Thanks to Media Arts for the technical side of things. And you can also find us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button underneath this video. Hit the all notifications bell so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumb up to like the channel, and click share to your social media. If you want to join the channel, then click join for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become a member for a one-off £25 payment, email john@nufcmatters.com or go to membership at the website nufcmatters.com. If you've got a smartphone, hold your camera over the QR code and it'll take you straight there. We also help the food bank on this channel. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to the matchday bucket and you can leave a virtual donation today. And don't forget, end of season due, 20th of July, 5 o'clock till late. All proceeds going to Dementia Matters. Super Matt and Gibbo live on stage. Ask George live on stage. And an acoustic set with the long sounds. What more do you want? Tickets are selling well. Tickets are a tenner from newcastlelegends.com and nufcmatters.com. Looking forward to seeing a lot of you there. It's going to be a cracking day and night. Okay, as always, we try and cram in a few questions for Ask George. We have one in, George. This one's from Jamie Fender. He says, dare I ask what George thinks about holes cut into the back of socks and or worn like stockings halfway up their thighs?
What do I think about it? I think it's an abomination is what I think about it. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to take pressure off their calves. That's what it's about. It's about taking pressure off their calves for when they're running and all the rest of it. But absolute abomination. And the ones that pull them right up so they look like they've got tights on, well, that's just, I prefer that to those that run around with them down around their ankles. Because there's still some who, despite the fact that the referee is supposed to make them pull their socks up, Grealish, for example, spends most of the game when he's playing with his socks around his ankles, and that's A, not allowed, but B, bloody dangerous. I mean, I've seen broken legs that have only stuck together because the player had a bloody sock on. It was the sock that kept the leg together, nothing else. So, no, I think... I know why they do it, but I think it's an abomination. I just put the challenge out to the kit manufacturers. Think of a way of putting a panel in the back of your socks, because it's. I mean, nowadays the clever things they can do with weaving and that sort of thing that you couldn't do in days gone by. I would have thought that somebody needs to talk about it. But personal opinion, it's an abomination. That's the way I can describe it.
All right, we've got a couple of quick fire ones. Stephen says, what colour was your autograph book, George? Why? He wants to know that.
He's suggesting that I was one of the people, a maroon one.
A maroon one. Tom Dixon says, ask George, with Newcastle only having 6 games left, are you confident Newcastle might finish in 6th place?
Yes, I am. I mean, beware, I'm Mr. Optimistic when it comes to black and white, as you probably know. But I look at how we've performed in the last few weeks. Yeah. And look at who we've got to face in the weeks ahead. And so everybody's saying, well, we've got to play Manchester United. But I tell you what, I'd love to play Manchester United now, because I've got a sneaking fancy they'll have a new manager by the time we do after Saturday, because that was terrible. And if we get hold of them at the minute, I think we'd make mincemeat of them. So nothing to fear is what I would say. If it goes wrong, then it's our fault. But I'm very optimistic that we're still going to be heading for 6th place, at least.
Blue Rhythm Boy says, what is George having for his tea? Or I guess, what have you had for your tea, George? Why again? Do you?
No, I'm about to have for me tea some curried chicken and rice.
Okay, there we go. And Philip says, ask George, can we win something at last next season if we are injury-free? Anything will do, he says.
Well, I'd be disappointed if we don't get close to something, because look at it, with just an average injury list this year, we would have been knocking on the door at least 2 trophies, in my opinion. But the next year, which surely the one of the cup should be a possibility. And let's face it, with no replays in the FA Cup, we should walk it, shouldn't we?
Gary says, can you ask George, a.k.a. Filofax, is there any player from yesteryear that could play at this level now?
Yeah, you know what I'm going to say.
Jackie.
Jackie Milburn would skate into them even now. But again, the distinction I make is he worked out that footballers needed to be athletes, not just footballers. And Jackie was phenomenal. The only other in that era of that team that fastened on was one of the littlest ones, George Hanna. I always say to Steve when I'm doing those other days, if you look at the old cup final pictures with them in the dressing room with a cup, drinking a champagne, the only two that have got their shirts off, Jackie Milburn and George Hanna, because they were the only two with 6 packs. All the rest had brown ale bellies, allegedly.
Last one from Les. Ask George, how did you feel watching the video that you starred in? You got a lot of good feedback about that, George, the Saudi video.
Can I just say I'm overwhelmed. I've had contacts from all over the UK, and everybody on Tyneside's been really, really generous. But I've had contacts from Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, lots from Greece, tons from Singapore, and all points. Oh, and some of the stuff from Saudi Arabia, I'm overwhelmed with. Some of the very kind things some people in Saudi Arabia have been sending to me, and I'm very, very touched. I don't know if Al-Waleed's had anything to do with that, but some of the guys in Saudi Arabia have been really, really kind. What did I feel about it? It was emotional to watch that, to be honest. I had no idea. I mean, you haven't seen the whole video, but what was interesting is I could see in the films, the pictures they used. There's a picture of me in the black and white stripes shirt in a team of young men, and there aren't many of those around. But anything I gave them, they've made use of it, and I'm really overwhelmed. And I can't thank everybody and all of you enough as well, and my dear son's been such a great support in this as well. I couldn't be happier. It's amazing, and just glad to do it. I mean, as I say in the thing, Newcastle United's a lifetime for me. I saw the first game in 1945, so so yeah. I mean, sorry to go on, Steve, but it's fine. It was emotional, and people
we're used to it.
Ever so kind, and as I say, some of the stuff that's come out of Saudi Arabia has been really, really flattering, to put it mildly. So thank you, everybody.
Big thanks to Al-Waleed for the introduction to the guys. I'm glad we could have been a help, and well done, George. Yeah, it was really good. And yes, Ferry Hill Mags, I see you tuning in. He says, happy St. George's Day. Now, on the breakfast show that I do 5 days a week on Toon Radio, I do surprise the lads occasionally with a bit of poetry. So this morning, I did get up with it being St. George's Day, and I did write a poem. And I've shared it with the lads in WhatsApp, so I will share it with you. Born in Cappadocia in 303, of Greek nationality, a legend he'd be. George was from Lydda, of Christian faith, a Roman soldier, he looked death in the face. Respected by many, lots of stories to share, he slayed a big dragon, so many declared. Refusal to recant his Christian faith, sentenced to death, beheading his fate. Forever a martyr, the brave St. George, on the 23rd of April, we remember him, of course. There you go. St. George. Happy St. George's Day. Okay.
My poem was better than that, Steve.
Yours was quite interesting. It was, yeah. You need a bit of work. Yours was more of a limerick rather than a poem, mate. But it was good to promote the show like that.
For your NUFC fix, they use it 6. There you go.
All right, Newcastle United back in action tomorrow, and no Toon Stato tonight. He tends to do the home fixtures, but we do have a little bit of this.
Good afternoon, evening, ladies and gents. Scunny Mag, Paul here with your away day guide to Crystal Palace. There's no underground nearby, despite there being a tube station called Selhurst Park. It is a long way away from the ground. Your nearest overground stations, Thornton Heath and Norwood Junction. But unlike most London grounds, there is street parking available around. The locals use it. To the north of the ground, there are quite a few main roads, and you can park up on the side of those. No restrictions, but check local signage, see what the locals are doing, follow them. For your street parking, if you head roughly to the what 3 words of Wrong River Gates, there are streets around there that you can park on. Those who have been on train previously and come into Thornton Heath, the Railway Telegraph was the first pub you would come to. It's away friendly. The postcode for the pub is CR7 7JJ. And your what 3 words is alien menu dress. If anybody has come into Norwood Junction and managed to get travel that way, the pub you'll be heading for is the Shelverdine Goat House. Really weird name. Ex-Wetherspoons pub. They sold it on in 2016. That explains why it's got a weird name, I guess. Prices are probably not going to be as cheap as they were, but again, away fan friendly, and it's the one everybody heads to coming out of that station. Postcode is Sierra Echo 25 6 Echo Papa, and your what 3 words is before trains spill. And then right in between the two, about the same distance from the ground as that one, from the away end, Prince George. That's my personal favourite. I've been there a few times. They get it ready for match days really well. They clear out all the tables and chairs, standing room only, so you can get more people in more comfortably. They have loads of bar stuff on, and they even, I was going to say when the weather's warmer, but last time I went it was rain forecast, and they had an outside pump, and there was serving beer outside to Newcastle fans, which is fantastic. Postcode is Charlie Romeo 7 8 Lima Echo, and your what 3 words is Curvy Grace Loaded. And when you're ready to head to the ground, it's a 5-minute walk or so from either of the last two pubs. You find the away section on the north corner of the ground. Your what 3 words for the bit of street that you need to be on to get in the turnstiles there is Royal Shows Blaze. That's it from me. I hope it was useful. Catch you again soon.
Thanks to Scunny Mag. Tim Kern says 3 words: Sod, Simon, Jordan. Very good, mate. Very good. The what 3 words. And Scunny Mag, people are saying, have I seen him on the telly? Yes, you have. Whenever there's a goal in the Strawberry Corner, think back to when Harvey Barnes scored his first goal for Newcastle and he ran towards the Strawberry Corner and somebody did the celebration where they did the arrow. That was Scunny Mag. He's got a bit of a shorter haircut when that video's on. But yeah, you have seen him on the TV on many occasions when there's a goal scored. Okay, Eddie Howe's press conference, what did it reveal? Very little. We know that Callum Wilson is on the way to recovery. Very hard to predict what's going to happen tomorrow. We can tell you that Joe Willock won't play any further part. We've already discussed Lewis Miley. Wilson's back to full training. He should be on the bench. He's scored 2 of our last 3 goals away at the Palace. So hopefully the return of somebody with a little bit of luck at that ground is going to help us through. There'll be no Nick Pope, no Almiron, no Target, Joe Linton, Kieran Trippier, Sandro Tonali, and Sven Botman and Jamal Lascelles, of course, both long-term absentees. The threat of suspension has been lifted from Bruno after that wonderful run of games without a yellow card. As for Crystal Palace, well, Sam Johnston, Czech Doucouré, Mark Gay, and Rob Holden and Jefferson Lerma are all out. Crystal Palace found a little bit of form, obviously beat Liverpool 1-0 at Anfield. They followed that up with a 5-2 demolition of West Ham. That's basically one little stat is that they haven't managed back-to-back Premier League wins at home, but that was their first back-to-back Premier League wins this season. As for the home form in general, they've won 5, they've drawn 4, and they have lost 7. Referee tomorrow, we've had him 3 times. Who is it again? That's gone. It'll come back to us. Anyway, it's a big game, this. Newcastle United going to a team in form. And I'll start with you, Martin, because Kev and George have already given us their rundowns on this match. So I'll start with you. Tom Bramwell's the referee. Chris Kavanagh's on VAR. What's your feeling about this game? Tough game, isn't it? But I think Newcastle are on form at the minute, and I just got a sneaky suspicion we're going to edge this.
I think George is 100% right. I think we've just got to go into this last few games optimistic and go for that European spot, whether it be 5th or 6th or 7th, whatever that ends up being. I think we control our own destiny and not worry about what anybody else is doing. I think it'll be a tougher game. I wish we were playing the Palace that was shit a couple of weeks ago. They found a bit of form, and now we're going to play them. But I think we still have enough to beat them. They've got some good players. Not too keen on Kavanagh on VAR. Doesn't really help the matter. But I think there's enough there to beat them. I think if we go in with the right attitude, Gordon's banging form, Isaac scoring goals, I think that front three of Gordon, Barnes and Isaac, I think is enough to tear them apart at the back. That creates the room for other players. I think defensively we've been good the last few games. So I think we just need to go same attitude, same plan. I think Eddie will have a plan, and they'll be working hard on it this week, I'm sure. It's nice to have Wilson back, but he doesn't displace Isaac for me, despite perhaps him being a slightly lucky omen. I think you go with that front three. So I'll go for a sneaky 2-1.
A sneaky 2-1, same as me. What's your feelings about this game, Stu, tomorrow night?
Well, on his second debut, I'm going to have to sadly go against what Mr. Martin's just said. Palace have won 2 games in a row, and had we played the Palace from a couple of weeks ago, I'm sure they would have rather played Newcastle from a few weeks ago as well. And they're all banging on it. It's the first time their front three have played together, and that's why they're starting to win games. I put our front three against any front three in the league. And I believe that the people that have went down, who haven't been mentioned, or anyhow, as we know, he has his chronology in his press conferences. I understand that part of the squad, whether they play or whether they're on the bench or whether they're just there to reinitiate themselves into the squad, Trippier's there, as is Miggy. Now, Miggy has form against Palace. He scored his first goal against them. He scored his best ever goal against them. So imagine having his name on the bench. I'm not saying he is going to be on the bench, but imagine having his name on the bench. It creates a few moments. But for us, for the first time this season, our destiny's in our own hands. And I think the squad, since the break they had after the Manchester City defeat, when they went to Dubai, I think they've galvanised themselves. They've regrouped and they've come back and thinking, right, we've now got a target, and it's an achievable target. It's not a long-term target. It's a clearly visible target. Let's see how we can finish this season. And we are a better team than Crystal Palace in every single department, even with the injuries we've got. And Palace are very good on the counter-attack, but at home, they're expected to attack. They're not playing a deflated West Ham team who have just given their all against one of the best teams in Europe this season. They have to come out and attack us, and that will play in our hands. And if they let us attack them for too long, it's going to be too late before they start trying to chase us back. So I think we'll have a controlled win. Eddie Howe with 10, I keep saying Eddie Howe, but he's coaching staff with 10 days to plan and prepare for this game. I don't think it's going to be comfortable, because it never is away, unless it's Sheffield United, of course. And unless in the Premier League, it's never comfortable away. But yes, of course, I've had my 3-1 bet, but I really don't see. So I keep saying Southampton for some reason. Crystal Palace scoring. I think we'll win 2-0. I think Harvey Barnes will score the first, and Isaac will get the second.
Okay, Al-Walid, thoughts on tomorrow's game?
Well, I believe, of course, both teams are comfortable, especially Newcastle, about no pressure of playing a little bit with no extra careful. I mean, they are now, and for me, I expect a draw, but the team will play for win, so it's very hard to expect. But I think can Newcastle grab 1-0 at Crystal Palace home?
1-0. Mitch, your thoughts? Have you got the dice? Oh, you're on mute, mate. You're on mute.
No, I don't have the dice. Forgot to get it out. But I saw most of the Palace-West Ham game. And for all Palace get the plaudits, they got a disjointed, bedraggled, disinterested West Ham who were looking to coast to the end of that season. What we did see in a couple of moments, particularly towards the end of the game, that goalkeeper is a flapper. He's pathetic, and he also created an own goal for himself by not concentrating. They won't live with our press. They won't live with the intensity that we will deliver. It's all on us. Like everybody said at the end of the season, we've just got to concentrate on us and what we know we can do. So I think let's go into it with a positive mindset and we'll come away with a comfortable 3-0 win.
3-0, Mitch. Wow. Okay. Kev, have they got the flip-flops on? Palace, just give us a little bit of a reminder of what you said last night.
I don't know if we've got the flip-flops on, but I just had a scroll through their recent results, and it's not great outside of the two Liverpool, West Ham. That they've been very hit and miss. They only beat the teams around them, what it looks like, and get humped off everybody else. So again, what Palace team are going to show up? Apparently, from what Eddie Howe was saying in his press conference, they play different. They played a new shape. They played a new way. And from what it looked, and it's like a 3-4-2-1. So if we play 4-3-3 in high press, like Mitch said, and put their back three under pressure, overloaded midfield, I think we again be successful. But again, it comes down to mentality. It comes down to whether we want to go and get the victory away from home on a Wednesday night in one of the most difficult grounds to get to for every travelling away fan to come away with 3 points. And again, that's down to the mentality of the players, the mentality of the coaching staff. It'll just be interesting to see how Eddie with his starting 11. How did he stick as a 3? Did he go back to a 4-3-3? We just don't know. So that's the difficult part from a fan's perspective, because we just don't know who's going to be showing up or who's going to be playing. We've got an idea, but again, if we play like we did against Tottenham, not in terms of possession stats, but in terms of intensity and in terms of mentality, I think, again, like I said last night, I think it'll be a relatively comfortable 2-1 win. I think there might be a goal in there for them, but I think we'll come out with a win.
Steve, before you go to George, can I just say something?
Yeah.
The Palace are trying their best to make themselves relevant on the back of Newcastle United, and they're renaming one of the stands for the game the Jamal Khashoggi stand. So they're trying the very, very best to become the new Everton or Aston Villa or whoever we're not meant to like. Let them get on with it. And in fact, I hope we'll beat them 6-0.
Yeah, I did see that. Decided
not Frank, mate.
Decided.
That's Frank. That's
Frank.
Frank Chippers.
Frank, was it? No, that's
it was, yeah.
Yeah, Frank Chippers. He did get a few bites out of it, I believe.
Well, he's got a big one here.
It wouldn't surprise me though if they did try something like that. To be fair, they have got a habit of creating some lovely flags when we go down there.
I'm sure they'll have the flag out.
We will see. George, just give us a reminder of what you said last night, mate. Did you go for a 2-1 like me?
No, scruffy 1-0. I said, and I think
that's it, 1-0, yeah.
On the back of what Neil said, I picked up as well that this the goalkeeper they've got not just a flapper. He's one of these that'll not like the ball at his feet with our players around him like they do in the press, and that's where I think the scruffy goal will come from. He'll make a mistake by playing it out to the wrong person or playing it into the wrong area, and it'll end up at the back of his onion bag before he's got time to get off his backside. So that's how I see it going. And everybody was talking about, well, Palace will be on a high. Well, we have every right to be on a high. We just slaughtered Tottenham Hotspur, for God's sake. We didn't just beat Tottenham. That's one of the nicest games I've seen for years. We just totally wiped the floor with them on 27% possession. Really? Well, if we can repeat that, and as Kevin said, the right ones turn up, I don't think we've anything to worry about. But I still think, because they're going to be higher for it, a scruffy 1-0 will do me nicely.
Okay, Magnus, what's your thoughts on the game tomorrow? Big one, this, because if we win, if we can get 3 points down there, especially with West Ham losing to Palace over the weekend and us not playing, it opens a big gap, doesn't it? It opens a little gap on Chelsea as well, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're coming from a good run, and so are we. We haven't lost for the last. Didn't we get 10 points out of the last 12? We are on high. Maybe it was too long of a break for us, really, to get 10 days being on such a high. On the other hand, with regards to the team, it's a little bit auto-picked on the midfield, but I'm feeling optimistic. We did get both Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento putting in some minutes last time. And if we got the pairing of Fabian Schär and Dan Burn, then I'm really not that worried even about their attack. It's a good attack, by the way, with Ese, Mateta, and Olise. And they have a great Danish defender that I rate highly in Andersen. However, they haven't even beaten us since 2021, so we have a little bit of a psychological edge on them. And also having beaten them at home 4-0, I'm feeling relatively optimistic. And I'm saying we're going to win this game 0-2. And the obvious scorers will be Isak and Gordon. And that's kind of how I feel. I'd like to approach maybe the viewers a little bit, and I hope they give us a feedback on. Well, I've had a couple of noise complaints here, which is not unusual for me. So please just give us a feedback on that. If I've lowered the mic for 25%, so please.
You've done very well, mate. No complaints tonight. Not one complaint. Normally people are going.
All right.
Can you tell the Icelander to calm down, to quieten his mic down? No complaints tonight, mate, so don't worry.
I'll talk to him. The word I once had the police knock on the door after I was sitting with my brother after I just found out that I was having a boy. You know, I just got the news, and we had just finished a security shift, a night shift security, and there was 4 officers in my doorstep. And they knocked on the door, and when I opened the door, they just asked. They were so surprised. Is it really just the 2 of you in here? So I do apologize for my strong voice. But anyway, I'm feeling optimistic on this game, and nighttime kickoffs have been quite good for us, and away the lads, we're going to win 0-2 is my prediction.
And it's Spenny, come on, son. It says Isaac, not IKEA. There you go. I am going to play out with the introduction because some of you will have missed it if you've tuned in late. But it's a big thanks to Magnus, to George, to Kevin, to Stu, to Mitch, to Alwaleed, and welcome back to Martin. Good to have him back on the channel. Thanks to all the moderators and everybody in the chat. Back 6 o'clock tomorrow. Talk of the Tune, really good show. It's a pre-record, but get back in 6 o'clock tomorrow. I'll play out with this. Take care. See you soon.
Cheers, lads.
Thanks, everyone.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not